This is Things Police See, First-Hand Accounts, with your host, Steve Gould.
Hey guys, welcome to the podcast that interviews active and retired police officers about their most intense, bizarre, and sometimes humorous moments on the job. I'm your host, Steve Gould. Thank you for being here. This is, let me just flip it back. This is episode number 80, episode number 80. And I'm excited to bring this one to you. This guy is a gal, which is one of my favorite things. She's going to check off two boxes. She's a lady, and she's also rural. I don't know if I've had anybody in the middle of the country before. Excited to bring her on. Before I do that, I want to say thank you to all the people sponsoring the show. You guys are truly amazing. It feels so good when I'm working or doing something else or on an overtime shift, and I see like that come in on my phone, like, oh, someone's supporting the show, and it goes and pays all the show's bills. So thank you for that. I want to do a little roll call here and thank everybody personally: Jacob, Ruth, Amanda Powell, Carmen East, Rich Emery, William James Long of William James Long Investigations, Samantha Harper, Gary Steiner, the great Gary Steiner, Richard Wilson, Scott O'Donnell, David Diaz, Timothy Wright. Thank you. You guys are awesome. And, I encourage you to support the show and do that. If you become a repeat supporter, I'll certainly read your name every episode. I remember to. I promise you that. So what do we have? What do we have today? Old Stevie boy, randomly, probably half a dozen times I've pleaded with the female police officers out there to come on the show and give us a little love. And this young woman responded, and I'm very thankful. She's very cool. She's a very cool cop, I can tell. I did a little background on her. She's got like cool hair. She has cool tattoos. She's got it going on. She probably hates that I'm doing this. She's been on the job 4+ years. She's a deputy sheriff in Iowa. She is also, I think, the second ever road deputy in her department. And she is also a combat, I don't want to say this wrong. She's also the first in her area female tactical medic. So they get in there and mix it up. I got a bunch of questions for her. I got the normal questions for her that we ask, and I got some other questions about being a cop in the Midwest. She's got some stories she's going to share. I'm super excited to bring her on. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, here is Sadie Hansen. Sadie, welcome to Things Police See.
Hi.
Hello. So, the other thing I wanted to mention was Sadie had mentioned to me that she probably will end up being in the top 5 most awkward people I've ever met in my life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Which is an amazing accolade to give yourself.
I just like to get it out there so people aren't surprised when it happens. They're like, oh, yep.
Like, yeah, she was a weird one, but I liked it. It was a great interview. That's what people are going to say. So you're in your late 20s. You've been a copper for a while. You didn't start as a cop, though, as I understand.
Right. So when I was like little, I kind of always wanted to be a cop, and then life kind of put me in a different direction for a little bit, and I went and got my paramedic, and I did that for like 2 or 3 years before.
That's not easy to get. That's like a paramedic's like that's longer than police academy, more involved. So you must have been like, yeah, you're really into that for a little bit.
Yeah. So I did the accelerated program. So usually a paramedic is anywhere from like a 2, sometimes like 3-year program, and I did it in a year. And then I'm also nationally like qualified basically. So there's like the state cert, and then there's also like the national cert, and the national is quite a bit harder to get, to keep, and to maintain. And I managed to pass all of my testing on the first try, which my wallet appreciated, and so did my anxiety.
I'm sure they're giving you, I mean, with all these certifications, you're getting a double salary, right?
I wish. It would be nice.
That's really awesome. I mean, and what an asset you are to your department. Can you explain to me? I know it's a relatively small department, but there's sheriff's departments out there, I understand, that are just double digits or low double digits. So is it the same type of sheriff's department you would see in the Northeast where you guys also run the jails, or is this more like just a police department?
Yeah, so we have actual jailers for our department. So we're technically in control of the jail, but we have jailers that like do like the bookends and all that stuff. So we don't have to like actively be in the jail doing stuff, which is nice. Like we're basically on the road. So I like to tell people we're like just like the city department, but different. So we're same, but different.
Okay. So they're near you. Is there a city department functioning? And you guys are like another layer of law enforcement?
Yeah, so we have one big, like our main city, which is about like 12,000 people. They have their own department, and honestly couldn't tell you how many guys are on there. I know it's more than we have on our department. And then we have two other smaller towns within our county too that have like 2-man departments. We respond to a lot of their calls as like backup. But otherwise we're responsible for basically like the entire county. And then we just kind of roll on other city calls if it's something that needs more people, basically.
Okay. So when you're on patrol, like say, how many people does it take to run your jail? Like how many man department do you have?
So for like our jailers, we usually have 2 on staff at a time. And we're actually in the process of getting a brand new jail, which hopefully will be done within the next few months. And I think that's between like 40 to maybe 60 beds total. Right now we have a jail that's pretty much from the 60s.
Nice.
It's a little rough. Yeah. But so like I said, like the jailers are in charge of that, but otherwise we have a 10-man department as far as like the deputy, sheriff, and all that stuff goes. So we have like our sheriff, chief deputy, a lieutenant, and then 7 guys that basically are considered like straight patrol.
Okay. And then how many jailers, like how many COs do you have?
I think maybe 10 to 12-ish. Honestly, like I don't think I've ever counted them.
Okay, so
but
it's
very
like
many.
So it's kind of a county jail where people will go for holding, and then you guys bring them to court and stuff like that, or in other departments contract with you, they can bring their arrest to you guys.
Yep. Yeah. So city logs their people there. We do, and then we just opened up for one of our adjacent counties. We take their inmates now as well. So our jail, we usually have anywhere from like 10 to 14 people at a time, give or take. And our jail's pretty small, so right now that's a lot for us.
Okay. And when you're on patrol, if you get a call, do you ever get calls that are like, whew, that is out there, like right away you're going to put it in GPS and like I'm going to be driving for half an hour? Do you get calls like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if we're like in one corner of the county, and then with like out of doubt you'll get called to the most like farthest part of the opposite side of the county, and you're like, I'll be there in like 30 minutes.
Yeah. Isn't that wild? Like the job I have now, total square miles probably is I don't know, 50 or 60 square miles total. And so literally I could be in the south part, and if you get one all the way up north, it's like just about half an hour. And it's like those, I hate it. Like I just want to get there. You know what I mean? Driving with your lights on, especially I had a like a code 3 call I had to go to during a snowstorm, and man, it was coming. I couldn't use my blue lights because when you turn your blue lights on in a blizzard, like you get blinded by the flakes. So,
yes.
And it, it's like, definitely there was some opportunity to slide off and not be found. So, yeah, that is a new stress that was added that I didn't experience before, where it's just like these just it's like it just takes forever, and then your backup could be another 20 minutes behind you. You know, it's very different. Like I have city cop friends that are like they're just into like the manpower. Just like you go to a call and then it's like boom, just pig pile them. You know, it's, you got all your buddies there and you're just kicking butt. And they're like, how do you do that? Why would you even want to do that? Be alone for so long? It's like it's just different. You know, and all their policies are against that. They're not even allowed to like go into some calls alone.
Right.
And for people like you and I, it's like there's no one else.
It's just another Saturday.
Right. Well, at least you're a paramedic. You can patch yourself up. I don't even know what I'm doing. You tourniquet the one that's bleeding, right?
Yep. That's it. That's all you got to do. Just hold pressure. Just do your ABCs. The ambulance be coming.
We say ABCs are ambulance before cruiser. Those are my ABCs.
Yeah.
Because I hate getting to those medical calls where you're like, well, it probably doesn't happen to you, but when you get to a medical call and you're completely outgunned with your what to do, and you're just like, that looks pretty bad. Why don't we put a towel on that and then another towel? Whatever we can put on there to absorb.
Just don't make eye contact with it.
I don't want to look at that. Yes. All right, good. We're on the same page, Sadie. I like it. It's good. So you made the transition. You were doing the paramedic thing, and that was riding an ambulance, right? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I was hospital based for a little bit, and then I went to a straight like road crew.
Okay. And you did that for a while, and you were like, you kept seeing how cool cops are when you showed up at calls with them, and you're like, they look really way cooler than us. I should probably get on that team. Is that what happened?
Yeah, I'm like, this looks way better. I'm like, I'm tired of doing transfers at 2 a.m.
Yeah, you're like, cool. Look at all the shiny things they have and the guns and everything. Because the paramedics, EMTs and paramedics get abused by patients, by cops' patients usually, the drunks. So, okay, Sadie, I want you to dig into any of your public first responder repertoire, whatever you have for experiences, just throw it out. Whatever, mostly police stuff, but if you have something that's like EMT or paramedic that's crazy, we want to hear that too. People love all this stuff. So can you tell me about the first hot call you responded to that really got your adrenaline going?
Yeah, so, and I was thinking about this one, and I can remember pretty much everything about the call. I'm like 99% sure it happened within like my first 2 weeks, like ever being in law enforcement, or it was the first 2 weeks straight out of the academy. But I'm leaning more towards, I'm pretty sure it was when I was still riding with one of the other guys, and it was like my first 2 weeks ever, because I'm not even positive if I had an actual like full uniform yet, or if I still had just like a polo, my tack pants, and basically whatever belt and vest they could find that fit me.
What did your field training look like, Sadie?
Well, we basically the first few days I rode with my one lieutenant. I rode with the sheriff a little bit, and then before I went to the academy, basically like they handed me the keys and said, just kind of drive around the county, learn the roads, don't stop anyone, and if there's a call, go to it and we'll meet you there, basically.
That's amazing. And that's not uncommon for smaller departments. And it's a real challenge we face, because it's like people expect their police department, like they're going to spend all this time on people, and they're going to really vet out their hires and all that, which is well and good when you have like a mill of hiring going on and you have this huge budget and you have all these cops. But now my eyes have really been open to small agencies like this. And it's like, it's tough. I mean, to this day, that's still what goes on. It's just kind of like, hey, and when people cringe when you tell them this stuff, when you tell like,
oh yeah,
big city coppers and departments that are like, have all kinds of FTO programs, and they're like, that's insane. That's ridiculous. But it's like, there's just no manpower. There's no,
right.
They need you. Like when you get hired in one of these small departments, like they wanted you yesterday, and they just want you on the road. So that like, I've been in the situation where they've been like, hey, hit the road, learn it, don't get into too much trouble. Like, you can even regulate that. Like, don't get into too much trouble. It's like, what if someone waves me down and there's like something going on? So that's interesting. I'm familiar with that idea. I mean, it's not the best, and it doesn't set up new people to be in good situations either.
Yeah, there was quite a few times it was pretty frustrating, especially like when you get a call, like, so where we're at, we don't get a lot of stuff very often. So you can go, a week or so and not have a call, and all of a sudden you get a call and you're like, I've never dealt with this like ever.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't talk about this in the academy. Obviously, I didn't have this call in training. I'm like just kind of going by the seat of my pants almost, and like, yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, it's tough.
But,
I'm sorry I interrupted you, but I just wanted you to speak on that because I don't think some people realize that it's that's the old school. That's the way it was. That's the way it was everywhere. I mean, even state patrols in big cities, they used to just do a ride along. You were like a boot, and then they'd kick you to your own car. Now they have these huge field training programs, but in places, in rural places, this is still the way it's done. So it's very shocking. Like, to me, I've gone to a rural place after years of experience. So luckily, I was in like a place where we had, at least I wasn't working alone. I had people with like many years seniority or sergeants that like guide you along on every call. But now I'm seeing people. So I come in with experience and it's like, okay, I can adjust to this. But then I see people dumped out of academy into this, and I'm like, ooh, this is going to be a roller coaster for you.
Yeah, and I went into straight overnights when I was out by myself after the academy. So I rode with one of the other guys for maybe about a month or so, and then I was totally by myself. And when on our overnights, the majority of the time, especially if someone else takes off, you're working that entire shift by yourself. Like, you're like the only one in the entire county. So you're brand new. You're completely by yourself. Like,
yeah, it's hardcore.
Praying someone answers their phone at 3 a.m. because you can ask them, like, what do I do?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, you're a tough lady. I like it. So I'm sorry I interrupted you. We were getting to your first hot call. Continue.
Yeah. No, you're good. So like I said, I'm pretty sure it was when I was like within the first 2 weeks, because I don't remember if I had, like I said, like if I actually had a full uniform or if I was still in, kind of whatever they could find that would fit me at the time, which was not much because I'm not like little.
They opened up the closet and they're like, just find some stuff that works for you.
Yeah.
You have like a basket weave holster.
Pretty much. Again, I'm pretty sure it was like built the same time our jail was.
Yeah.
But no, so the first hot call, I was with one of the other guys, and we were actually just started our lunch break. So we were standing in line at Subway, and I was still trying to figure out, okay, focus on everything else, make sure my radio's turned up, listen to this, learn this, kind of know different voices and everything. And all of a sudden, he just like starts running out the door, and I'm like, okay. So I like chased after him. I'm like, what are we doing? And he goes, there's a pursuit. And I'm like, what? And so one of our conservation guys out at our like lake basically went to go stop a vehicle. I think it was for a stop sign violation. Like, literally was just going to stop and be like, hey, like, you need to stop for stop signs, because those guys are literally just in like a t-shirt and polo, like they check fishing license and like the little river accesses and stuff, and all of a sudden, yeah, he's calling out this 1080 and doing stuff, and they're headed straight towards us. So like, I'm in the passenger seat, I have no idea what's happening, what's going on. He's calling stuff out, and next thing I know, we're behind this freaking car and we're just hauling balls through like the middle of the city, these little like roads, and he's whipping it around, and I'm just like sitting there like
It's hard. It's really hard being in a car, especially if you're not driving. If you're new and you're not driving and someone else is driving crazy, it's like your legs are locked and you're just like, you're gonna kill us.
Yeah. And the guy I was working with, he's still on my shift now. He's fun to work with, but his driving scares me. He is not easy on our cars. And yeah, so we're whipping around, and all of a sudden this car pulls into an alleyway. You see him slam it in park, and two people go to pop out. And at this point, I mean, like, the majority of the city guys and the other daytime deputy that was out, I mean, they're all in there. Everyone's piling out. They're starting to, like, pull their guns and draw down on these people, and I'm just sitting there like, I don't even know how to get out of the car. But yeah, so we obviously got it figured out and stuff, and turns out they had quite a bit of like drugs and stuff like that on them, so that's the whole reason they were running. And one deputy kind of looked at him and was like, you realize that this wasn't even like an actual, you know, quote, cop that was stopping you. Like, you literally just went out to stop for the stop sign. That's all he was going to tell you, and like, you could have gone on your way. And instead we just went on this, you know, however many, like, I'm sure it was like 3-minute long pursuit through the city for, because you're dumb. But
yep, I mean, that's always the way, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
So many times you get a warrant or someone's suspended driving just because they're speeding. You never would have noticed. And then all of a sudden, now you have a warrant, or they're suspended, or, you know, or their registration's revoked. And you just like, dummy, if you had just been going the speed limit, we wouldn't even be standing here. You know how many people drive around with no license for years because they go the speed limit? Like, a lot.
Exactly. I'm like, if you just paid attention that, bro, you got one headlight, like, and you know that you have one headlight and you're going to continue. All right. You can't be mad at me for this right now. Like,
yep. Especially you run into the one cop in the county, you have no headlight. There's zero chance you're not getting pulled over.
Exactly.
Why don't you step out for me?
What? Yep.
Oh, that's great. That's a good one. Yeah, that will definitely, especially the you not being in control aspect of it as well. So did you eventually get out and draw your gun as well, or did you just kind of like hang back, like, let's just see what's happening?
Well, yeah, no, I finally got out, and by the time, like, I got caught up with everyone, I mean, they had them done and figured out, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, do I take my gun out still? Right. No, like, I don't know.
You're like, did I miss that part? Damn it.
Yeah, I was like sitting up here like awkward turtle.
That's awesome. That's great. So, can you tell the audience about a strange or bizarre moment that you had? And feel free to share more than one story if you got it.
Yeah, so this one, like, you know, we were kind of talking before. This one was really hard to narrow down. Where I'm at, people like their meth. It's also the middle of nowhere, more or less, so we get a lot of weird stuff. Probably, like, the one that kept coming to mind, though, was when we got called for a possible, like, skid loader theft, because when you're in the middle of nowhere, it's what you steal is skid loaders.
Heavy machinery.
Yeah. And anyway, so we get called out for the skid loader theft. We get out there, we're looking around, and turns out, like, this guy's ended up in his truck yet, and he's got a trailer, and he wasn't able to get anything actually loaded up on the trailer yet, and he was, quote, just sleeping in the front of his car, or his truck.
He was sleeping, like, with his eyes open, picking his face.
Yeah. And I mean, this dude's not from anywhere around here. He's got out-of-state, like, license, driver license, like, everything. We've never seen him before. And so we get there sitting there talking to him, and I want to say he had a warrant or something along those lines that we ended up actually arresting him that night. And so we get him, like, loaded up, and we go back to the truck, and there's a goat chilling in the truck. And apparently he was just traveling across the country with the goat in his truck. And
one of those service goats, like, they help your nerves, you know?
Yeah, I don't know if that's what the goat was for, but...
Oh, yeah. Boy, I hope he wasn't getting biblical in a beastly way.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah. And so
the goat was so happy to see you. Thank you.
Yeah, and so we're trying to get this freaking goat out of this truck. It's not having it. It's freaking out. And so we ended up getting, like, one of our, like, dog leash collar things, and I get it roped around, and we're trying to pull it out. Well, the goat just, like, goes stiff and just, like, falls. So
Like a fainting
other
goat.
deputy, yeah, is trying to like pull this like limp goat like into the back of his squad car so we can like transport it to, we don't really know where yet, because we're like, we're
Right. Oh my
again,
gosh.
it's the
Yeah.
middle of the night. We have this random goat who's just pooping everywhere at this
Oh yeah.
point.
I'm sure. Do you have like
Randomly.
animal control officers or anything?
We are animal control as well, so
Oh, that's nice. You don't need to make a call. It's time to handle it.
yeah, yeah. So we got some very flattering videos of my my partner trying to drag this goat into his car. The goat's freaking out. He's yelling at the goat. There's just poop everywhere.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it was quite a bit, and then it actually kind of took a rather grim turn, because the guy that called in the skid loader theft, a couple days later, actually we got called back out to that location because he ended up committing suicide in one of the like farm buildings out there.
Oh no.
So it was weird, bizarre.
Yeah.
So I called my other deputy and I was like, hey, I said, your lead witness in this theft just killed himself. So good luck.
Yeah. Wow. What are the chances in an area that big, that sparse, you get called to
Yeah.
the same place twice? And the second time, how did he kill himself? Did he shoot himself or hang himself or poison?
He hung himself actually. So one of the employees noticed that his truck, because he was staying there, sleeping, like, because he worked out there, and he was staying out there, which is the whole reason why he noticed like this guy was trying to steal a skid loader, and the employees noticed his truck was still out there, and he like wasn't anywhere in the building, so they kind of went walking around trying to figure out where he was at, and they found him hanging in one of the buildings. So it was weird turn of events.
Yeah, that is weird. It's I've heard him before where it's like a cop's checking on a car like in a conservation area. You're like, oh, a car's been here for like 2 days, and you're like, well, maybe it broke down or something. Then you hear like, oh, he was discharged by the police on the day he left the car here with like a bunch of felonies, and you're like, well, this is getting worse. This is like, and,
Yeah.
and you look at you're on him and look at it and you go, he's probably way out there in the woods somewhere. And they usually are. Geez. That's bizarre. So the goat was okay, though. What kind of goat was it? 'Cause I'm a goat guy. Sadie, I don't know if you've heard me talk about it, but I got Nigerian dwarf goats that I care a lot about. They're like little doggies. They're really friendly. I don't know. I can't speak for other goats, like Gore goats or any of that other stuff. These guys I have are little, and they're like dogs. You can pat them, and they're really cute. Was this like a big horned goat?
No, it was just like ones you see at like the petting zoos. Basically, it was just like this fat white goat that was, I think, halfway glad to get out of the truck, but also super mad to go in the back of a squad car. And
What was
not
its
impressed
fate?
with
What happened
our-
to it? Did you guys eat it or what? At the station?
No,
Feed it to the prisoners.
yeah, lamb chops for everyone.
Exactly.
No, last I knew, we dropped it off at the vet clinic, and I really don't know what happened to it after that. I like to think he's living a good life somewhere,
I think he has a
but
better
I
life
really
now.
don't know.
Well, it sounds like there's no way his life's worse.
Hopefully not.
From the picture you painted. So, okay. So how about working on the meat wagon? Got any stories from that? I bet you do.
Yeah, so I got two pretty decent ones for that one. The one is our cross-dressing construction worker. So we got tripped to a cement truck that had basically gone off the road, hit a culvert, and like halfway rolled. So pretty emergent call. So we go hauling out there, and this guy is like halfway trapped in this like cement truck on its side. It's kind of down pretty much like the worst spot he could have gone, and it was like right before a bridge, and he went down in, kind of like hit like the culvert underneath, and was halfway in like this weird creek bed type deal. And of course, it's never a small person.
Right.
So they get this, basically when you imagine big burly construction worker, like manly man, they get him pull out of this truck. We get him in the back of the rig, and we're doing our thing. We go to like start cutting his clothes off, and I got my scissors, and I go to start cutting his pant legs, and I notice I'm like, there's like more underneath than just his like jeans and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's summer in Iowa, so it's not
hot.
Yeah, it's hot. Like, yeah, there's no reason he should have multiple layers on.
Right. These aren't flannels.
And yeah, so I start cutting and I get going, and I notice, and I'm like, it's like this weird like fishnet stuff, but it's not like down by his legs. So I'm thinking maybe it's kind of.
Yeah, maybe it's some kind of like thing I don't know about that helps you cool down.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. And so I keep cutting, and like, as I'm going up his leg, there continues to be black lacy fishnet. And I looked over at my partner and kind of made eye contact with him and looked down, and he kind of looks at me and kind of like,
yeah,
we're both seeing this. Yeah.
I'm not losing my mind, right?
Nope. And we basically get all this stuff. We're obviously professional. We don't say anything about it. Get everything, get him stripped down so we can see everything, get his boots off. And he had his toenails painted, and he had on a full set of women's lingerie. So.
Wow. Underneath his like trucker gear.
Yep.
Wow.
So.
Any facial hair on this person?
Yeah, he literally looked like, if you would imagine someone that like cut like lumber and laid cement and did like a hardcore like construction
manly
stuff.
Man.
And again, and not small by any means.
Wow.
And yes, he was very in touch with his feminine side.
Wow, that is crazy. Yeah, you never know. Everybody's got their own weird, what is it, proclivities or whatever. I mean, that's really weird.
Yeah.
We had, I remember. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, you're good. You're good.
I was gonna say when our middle school got rebuilt when I was a kid, there was a construction worker there that like literally ran the jackhammer that was a transvestite, and I'll never forget her name was. His name, whatever, was Donna Marie. And it just was like, for kids, it was so confusing. We were like,
yeah.
Like, didn't do a great job at being a lady. You know what I mean? Like, kind of like sloppy, like, but like, screwed up lipstick. And we were just like just terrified of this person, Like,
I have so many questions.
Yeah, they just seem so mixed up and angry. They're breaking all the foundations down. It was just so, but that's really bizarre. Wow. Did he have normal underpants on? Like guys' underpants?
No.
Okay, so that's part of the lingerie thing. Like,
oh yes.
Like panties.
Yes, it was not a cheap set that he was wearing.
Really? Yeah, that sounds expensive. Well, when those guys go to a lot of truck stops, so he was dressed for business. Oh my goodness, that is bizarre. That is truly bizarre.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should we move on to the next question, or do you have another bizarre thing you'd like to share?
Yeah. I guess the only other bizarre one kind of was falling under the medic one. We had a guy that was trying to move a 600-pound safe down a flight of stairs. And I
literally was that guy about 6 months ago, and I stopped, and I was like, no, I'm not doing this.
It doesn't end well, because when the safe shifts and you're going down and you're the only one holding it, it tends to come down after you. And this safe basically had this guy pinned on like these cellar stairs. And he
oh my gosh, it was my cellar too. Damn, I'm glad I didn't do that.
Yeah, no, he was about an inch away from not being a man anymore via the corner of the safe.
Really? Wow.
And yeah, and his ankle was bent in ways that just should not be bent. And the whole time it was kind of funny because the whole time his wife was just in the background just chirping, "I told you," and and you stupid,
Wow.
We're like, yeah, trying to take care of this guy whose main concern is as he's screaming about his manhood.
Yeah.
And we're like, dude, you don't even want to know your real issue right now because that shouldn't not look like that. But yeah, he was lucky. But yeah, that just the way it came over the radio and everything, and then we get there and the whole setup and the wife and the cellar stairs, and you're just like, this is once in a lifetime call. Like I don't really know how to get this off of you.
Sadie, I just can't stomach that. Like my hat is off to paramedics and EMTs because like we go to that stuff and we might have to do a tourniquet or put a Band-Aid on it, you know, but in the back of your head, you know, they're coming, you know, like the people with the tools and knowledge.
Yeah.
Well, in your case, you're a paramedic, so you're kind of screwed. You gotta do maximum care when you're there. But I can't deal with people's like legs all flippity floppity in the wrong direction, like human body not looking right, or like, you know, just disjointed. I mean, I've been to some accidents before where I was just like, oh, I can't deal with this. This is like really upsetting to me. Or you know, even like some deaths where people like sometimes like the face can be off a little bit. You know what I mean? Just like stuff that just doesn't look right really bothers me. And I'll tell you right now, I was at right over there, because I'm in the basement, right over there at the top of my bulkhead stairs this winter. There was snow on the ground, and I work with a guy who's like 6'3", and he's like 240. So this is the dude I've been asking, like, dude, can you come over and help me with this freaking safe? I bought this gun safe. It's been in my garage. It's like just sitting there. And my wife was like, really? We need a gun safe? I'm like, well, it's a new, you know, because we just moved in. I'm like, well, you need some place to put all my guns. And she's like, was that like really a priority? Because it's, you know, taking up room in the garage. She's right. It was really dumb. So, but I did it. So I get the thing like up. I get the door off. The door weighs a bazillion pounds. I'm like, I'll just bring it down separately. The door and the cabinet are separate now. And of course, it's still way too heavy. And I got it to the top of the stairs, and I had it on like a big dolly with come along straps. It was all strapped to it. And I had my wife come out, and we like got it started on the first step and going down the bulkhead. And my wife's, I'm like, should I go like next to it or in front of it? And she's like, we're not doing this. I'm so glad she said that. She's like, Steve, I'm not strong enough. Like she goes, right now, just getting it to the first step was like max my strength. My muscles are now like shaking. Like this thing is gonna, you know, steamroll you, idiot. So, well, I don't know. I didn't need to tell that drawn out story, but like when you were telling me that story about his ankle and stuff, I was just picturing me and my stupid red head smashed on the floor. You know. Damn, that would have been me. It would have been like so embarrassing and painful. So his wiener package was okay. There was no damage. That was fine.
No.
Okay.
No, someone was definitely looking out for him because it was resting against that. So. Dang.
Wow. It is funny in the first responder game how you see so many people naked, like in their worst moments. It is really like, man, I just like cataloging the events in my head where it's just like, dang, like if this person knew this would be going on a half an hour ago, they would be mortified. You know what I mean? Just like, I've told this story before. I went to a call once where one girl shot another girl right between the breasts with a .22 caliber pellet gun. And it left like they were wad cutter 22 caliber, like it was a pump up gun, but it was 10 pumps, and she was like point blank by mistake. And she was like, we came in and she was so panicked. There was like this little party going on. She was like 25. As soon as she sees me and the other cop, she just rips up her bra and shirt and is like, and I'm like, what is that? She's like, that's where it went in. I'm like, because it was a perfect hole punched in her like breastplate area. And I was like, oh my goodness. And the other cop was like, wow, do you feel okay? And she's like, I actually been coughing a lot. And she's coughed and blood came out of her mouth. And we're like, oh, this is like in your lung or something. And then she passed out and started convulsing. And sure enough, she lived.
Oh.
They brought her. It was in her lung. It went through her, punched through her breastplate, and ricocheted into her like pellet gun. But she was like, she's like in front of everyone was like, help me. Like when people are scared, they don't care. They're like, I don't care. I'm naked as the day I was born. Do something to help me.
Yeah, I was not prepared for the amount of nakedness and smells that I've experienced.
I'm not good with smells either. I dry heave so easy. I do it so easy. Like people are surprised I can even do this job. Like I had my sister's even worse. If I even describe like poop to her, or if I start talking about poop, she'll be like, Steve, you got to stop. And she'll just start dry heaving. All right, we're way off in a dark path now. I don't want to go down. But just be prepared,
I told
folks.
you it's gonna get awkward.
Yeah, it came true. If you're looking to get in this line of work, it's going to be weird and smelly and rewarding, but also stinky and dry heavy. I'm definitely the new guy, even though I'm old. I'm puking in the corner. Steve's puking in the corner again. Okay, so let's get to Deputy Hansen's most intense or terrifying call that she's been on.
Okay, yeah. So this one came down again to two that actually happened within a couple weeks of each other. So I had my daughter a year ago, and I was pretty lucky. I got really good like maternity leave. My department and sheriff took care of me really, really well the whole time I was pregnant, which is unfortunately a rarity for a lot of girls, which sucks. But,
oh, really? But you guys have FMLA and all that, right? Family Medical Leave Act.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, so and especially with like a smaller department, a lot of times, I mean, you just don't have the manpower to be able to pull someone completely off the road. And I mean, the guys I work with, I mean, they worked around me. They were able to like switch shifts because we used to rotate through shifts. And a couple of the guys, I mean, they worked basically straight nights. So when I got to a point that I like couldn't wear a vest and stuff anymore, I was able to work days, doing office work, stuff like that without an issue. And they just kind of powered through and covered the nights. And I didn't have to be out on the road. They're like, you better not get
pregnant again, Sadie.
Yeah, every time I'm like on a vacation, they're like, we're not doing this again. But yeah, so I was pretty lucky with that. And then as well, when I came back, I was still able to, so I was like, I breastfed for a little bit. And then I went to basically just like straight pumping because it was right. A lot at work. I mean, you got to take everything off. And,
oh, yeah.
And that was when I was still on straight overnights then, so 8P to 6A. And so I would just basically be able to come home periodically and pump while I was at home, which obviously, you know, requires getting all of your stuff off. And the one night I was sitting at home, I was doing my thing, and I heard over the radio one of the city guys like yelling into the radio. And there was one of the guys that, I mean, he really doesn't get worked up. He's been there, done that, you know, seen it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, he's on the radio. He's like, we need more people now. And I'm like, whoa. And then dispatch gets on there, like, we got reports of a shooting with injury at one of the apartment complexes that we frequent.
It's always an apartment
quite
complex.
Often. Yep. Yeah, it's a little, like, quote, village of them. And, yeah, so they're like, we've got, you know, multiple reports of a gunshot, multiple gunshots with at least one victim, shooting victim. He's, you know, we don't really know what's going on. And then, yeah, then that officer's like on the radio screaming, and I'm like trying to like disconnect, throw all my stuff back on. And I mean,
oh my gosh, yeah.
It's probably 4 blocks actually from my residence too. So that was kind of even more like, oh shit, like if this guy's not still on scene, you know, or we don't even know who the shooter is, like this is in my backyard more or less.
Right.
And yeah, so I'm like trying to throw all my stuff back on. I'm trying to haul up there, and yeah, we get up there, and literally I think like everyone that lived in that little like multiple building village thing was like outside screaming, yelling. I mean, they're yelling at us. I mean, we're trying to figure out, you know, who the shooter is, if they're still there. I mean, where they went, if they're not, where the victim's at. And I mean, we don't get a lot of shootings. I mean, that's probably within the last 4.5 years that I've been here, that's maybe only like the second one that we've had in our county that's actually been like a legit, like someone else shot someone on purpose type of deal. So, I mean, we don't get those calls, so it's not our bread and butter. And
Sure.
it was super chaotic. Again, middle of the night, you don't know what's going on. And yeah, and that was, kind of the first serious call after I had my daughter. So I'm like trying to work through all of that, trying to figure out, where this victim is, because I've got like the medical skills. So they're trying to tell me to go find this guy to start rendering aid.
Totally.
And I'm sitting there and turns out the shooter actually was still on scene. He didn't have the gun. And he was, looking back now, it's kind of funny because he was like trying to talk to like multiple officers. He's like, hey, let me talk to you. Hey, let me talk to you. And they're all like, like, get the F away.
Get out. We're looking for the shooter. Shut your mouth.
Get out. Yeah, literally. And turns out that was our guy, which we ended up, I mean, after we got the ambulance in, basically did a hot load, got the shooting victim out, and he had through kind of like the upper groin area, through and through, pretty decent shot. And so, I mean, he was not, I mean, he was critical, but I mean, it wasn't like he, was like
so
shot.
You get like shot like in the lower gut area, like
something. No, so like right in the upper groin, so kind of like in your like hip crease area.
Yeah, is that what? Do you know what caliber it was? Was it like a handgun or?
Yeah, it was a handgun, and I'm trying to think if it was a 9 or a 40, and I honestly don't remember. But I know it was decent size. It was like a pellet gun or a 22.
Sure.
So it did.
It wasn't a pellet gun between the boobs.
Yeah, yeah. It did some damage. But yeah, so that was kind of the first time that I'd ever really dealt with anything that chaotic. And again, I mean, that was right after I had my daughter too. So it was kind of so many different things were like playing through my head, and
oh my goodness,
my focus. And yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot, especially
and that was actually
when
the third time.
No, you keep going.
No, go ahead. Oh, I was going to say that, yeah, that was actually the third time that week that we had gotten called up there for possible gunshots. And yeah, this time it was like legit. So
it's crazy. I mean, especially when you go to a call like that, and it typically, I think in most policing, you go to a call and usually it's like over dispatched, like it's like way worse than you think, and you get there and it like de-escalates. Mm-hmm. And you're like, okay, what really happened? And then you kind of figure it out. But when you go to one that's like truly horrible, and then it doesn't de-escalate, it starts to escalate, and then you're like, whoa, like, so you're on high alert the whole time, and you're like, you're just, if you're not used to doing that all the time, like it's kind of tough because you're like, you're jacked up, like your body's telling you, it's fight or flight, so you're not fleeing because you're a cop, you're going in, but you're kind of like ready for something. So like I know what you mean by it's kind of hard to like in the moment like that turn off and on investigatory skills and like, you know what I mean? It's kind of because you're just kind of like you're pumped, you're like ready for the threat. The guy's out there, you're there. It's and then hindsight's 2020. You find him and it turns out whatever. But like when you're going through it, it's really really intense. And I can only imagine, Sadie, about the whole like breastfeeding thing. And like, I mean, this is gonna be a weird comparison, but like if I go on vacation for 2 weeks and eat a lot, and I come back and put on my gun belt and my vest, I'm like depressed. I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I want the shift to end right now because I feel so things are cutting into me. It feels terrible. My vest was like measured for me when I was out of academy, and now I'm a load. You know what I mean? So, but like really, when you have a baby, even if you're lucky enough that you can get your figure back pretty quick, still your chest is probably way bigger than it normally is, and like nothing fits right, and it's pinchy and like uncomfortable, and you're in the middle of breastfeeding. I mean, we have 3 kids, so I been involved in the whole process. And besides that whole thing, you have a new baby, so you're also probably like, what am I doing? Like, am I going to get myself shot here when I have a baby at home and like, you know, I'm sure those things go through your mind when you're just kind of like, is this worth it? Like for you know, like you're going to this apartment complex. I'm guessing this is a trouble spot. You go there all the time. It's always for domestics or to serve something or to do whatever. And it's like, great, I'm going to get shot at this dumb place where no one likes me anyways. I don't like them. And it's like, I have this great baby at home. What am I doing? And that thought happens in like, you know, 4 seconds. And then you do the call, you're tough, you get through it, you're mentally tough, you figure it out. Later, it's fine. You still like the job and you're back the next day. But I don't think people understand that battle that goes on, that can go on in a real intense call like that. And that's just the reality of the job. It's like my buddy Ken has a police applicant podcast where he talks to people about preparing to be a police officer. It's a really great podcast if you're an applicant and you want to get some, you know, heads up on what the process can be like. But I was listening to it today. I was catching up with it, and he said, like, you know, it's on the other end of the blue lights and the siren and the watching TV about it and how cool it is. On the other end of that little trip you make could be something horrible and really hard to deal with, or something horrific, and it's really fun to talk about it later, and it's kind of cathartic, and I think it gives people a really great insight to what it's like. But you really don't know what it's like unless you like do that ride along, or become a cop and go to the call. Absolutely. 1,000%.
Yeah, it was a whole new dynamic. I mean, and I came from kind of, you know, a little bit of that public service, being a medic in this area that I'm officer in too. And so, I felt confident. I'm like, oh, you know, like I kind of know what goes on and stuff, but it's a whole new world. And then all of a sudden, like, you have a kid and a family, and it's like, it's just a whole new dynamic that the people, unless you're actually going through it, like, you can't even, it's undescribable. It's literally like undescribable.
Yeah. And I think we all remember before we were doing it, what you thought of law enforcement. Like, yeah, but they like that, or that's what they signed up for, or that's what they're into, or whatever. And then when you do it, you're like, you find out what your interests are in it, and what stresses you, what doesn't, and you hear people say BS like that, and you're like, you just have no idea. Like, you don't know.
You have, no clue.
No clue.
Yeah, especially, I mean, in this area. Oh, yeah, I was going to say, I mean, especially in this area, too, we have issues. A lot of people are like, blue lives don't exist, or, you signed up for this, you chose this, you get to go home and take your uniform off. And it's like, yeah, I do, but I'm also shopping at the same grocery store where the dude that I just arrested for domestic 2 nights ago is shopping at, and they recognize me, and I'm sitting here with, my family in street clothes. And yeah, it's like, we're in a small area, they know where I live. My car's parked outside my house. They drive by. Oh yeah. They know our schedules, they know where our kids go to school. They know the names of our kids, where our significant others work. Like, my husband has people come in all the time, and it's like, oh, met your wife last night, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, like, we get to, quote, take our uniform off, but it's, especially in an area like this, it's like, I can't go out to the bar, because I arrested this dude for ODA, last week, or something like that. So that's just like the stuff that people don't think about, in a smaller area where everyone knows everyone and their business, especially the criminals.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very true. I mean, growing up with my dad, he did 30 plus years in like a 20-man department. And same thing though, I remember going for a bike ride and him telling us all to put our hoods up, like in the fall. And we're like, what is he talking about? Because this guy that tried to cut the head off of his mother was out and was there with the dog or something, it was something weird like that. And he was like, guy doesn't like me. He's off his rocker. He just got out. And it was like, when you're a kid, it's exciting. You're like, oh, crazy guy, but like later you're like, oh geez, my dad must have been like wigged out. Like, oh my gosh, let's get out of here. And just what you said, like the grocery store thing, like you're gonna, luckily, like a lot of times people are hammered. So they'll look right at you and go by and you're like, whew, no clue who I am, because you have a ball cap on or something, and you're, they're not completely high out of their mind. But other times, there was times where I used to live where my wife was like, why is that guy doing that. And look over, he's outside his pickup truck, and he's just like, 1,000 yards staring me, and I'm like, oh, this guy.
Yeah.
Oh boy, we might end up fighting.
Yeah.
Like this might be bad, but it didn't happen. But that's a reality, especially of smaller community policing. You kind of live in it, and especially a lot of the sheriff's departments bring their cars home.
Yep. Yeah.
Which
it's
is
a giant beacon, like, hey, this is where I live.
Do you have? I've been warned about this before because we do have I might have the opportunity down the road to have a take-home cruiser, and people are like, it's great, but like they're like, people literally report crimes to me in my front yard. Like going to get their mail, they'd be like,
yes.
Excuse me, Sadie, I just had a question about a huge crime I know about, and you're like, you should call someone on duty because I'm like, in my pajamas, like with my kid.
Yeah.
It's like, don't report crimes to me.
A lot of the times I'm like, oh, hey, yeah, I mean, that's a city problem. I'll let one of the city guys know. Or I'm lucky enough that a lot of people think it's my husband, so they go up to him and they're like, hey, blah, blah, blah.
Awesome.
And he just looks at them like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I can't.
And meanwhile, you've gone inside.
Yeah. I'm like hiding in the corner. Don't answer the door.
That's awesome. You have a great looking family. Husband, big burly dude. Bearded man, would not mess with that guy. Beautiful child, and you're very, like I said, you're very cool looking, and you look like I don't know, like a professional skateboarder or something to me.
Well, thanks. I did actually use a skateboard.
I knew it. No, you look like you look too cool for police work, actually. So that's nice. You have that going for you. I'm sure you're probably good with the youth, the youths.
Yeah, actually, I get requested quite a bit to kind of deal with, like, we have like a problem, juvenile or something like that. They're usually like, hey, can like Sadie go talk to him? And I'm like, you want like the most awkward person on the department to go talk to this kid? All right. It's not going to go good, but we can try.
That's fun. Well, you have not been awkward at all. I think you're being hard on yourself. I think you probably do a good job with that. So, Sadie.
Well, thank you.
Can you tell us about a positive situation you've run into?
Yeah, so probably one of my favorite moments would have been at we had like a kids' day fair basically, and they had a bunch of different stuff out there. They had like the city officers, a couple of those guys were out there. They had a couple of sheriff's cars, the ambulance, fire truck. I want to say like a couple like the gyms were out there, and then like some other like fun kids games and the rec center, kind of all like a kids fair basically.
Yep.
And they had a dunk tank there, and they were going through, and my car happened to be sitting right by the dunk tank, and they had a bunch of kids that kept like asking like, hey, like, were you getting the dunk tank? Were you getting the dunk tank? And I'm like,
bet.
no, like I'm like in full uniform, like I'm not getting in there. And I ended up getting suckered into it, and I got in there. I just kind of dropped my vest and belt and boots and my squad, and got in there. And I mean, the kids had an absolute blast, and it worked out too, because a couple weeks later we had a call that involved a few of the kids that were at the tank, and they were really a lot more open to talking with me. And I mean, it just went a lot smoother because they're like, hey, you were the cop that was in the dunk tank. And I was like, yeah, like, why don't you come talk to me and we'll get something figured out. So it was just nice to have like that positive community involvement, especially when it was like, some like younger, troubled youth.
Yeah.
And just to have them have that like positive correlation that, hey, like, you guys are actually kind of cool. Like, you do like cool stuff. Like, I can talk to you.
That's really cool. And were you on duty? Like, was there the possibility that you'd have to go to a call?
Yes, unfortunately.
Oh, wow.
My lieutenant was luckily there working, and I told him, I was like, hey, look, like, if I get in this thing, like, just so you know, unless it's like dire, I'm not taking the call. Like,
yeah, I need a minute if I get a call.
Yeah. So I'm like, I obviously don't have other clothes. I'm like a freaking wet SEAL showing up to this call. Like, how can I
Right.
help you?
That's awesome. Well, it sounds like your command staff is really cool too, which is awesome.
Yeah. Yep.
That's really cool. Sadie, important question. Probably one of the more favorite questions that I ask is about advice for new candidates or young police officers. What do you have for them?
Yeah, so I kind of thought about this one a lot, and I was gonna go a couple different directions, but I think kind of the one like theme that I kept coming up with was just like train, like especially if you're in a small department like I am. I mean, you're out there by yourself a lot of the times. You don't have backup. Like you are your own backup. So you need to train, and you need to know how to be able to handle yourself, whether it's just, that quote verbal judo, know how to talk to people and not just be a complete dick every time. And then get hit, like get hit in the face, know what it's like to get hit and be able to respond to that. That saying, everyone's got a plan until they get hit in the face. And I used to do Thai fighting, and it sucks. Like when you get hit hard in the face,
Your bell rung.
everything that you thought that you were going to do goes out the window. And you don't have that option in this job. And there's so many officers that are out there that have never been in any type of fight. The worst confrontation they've been in is, with, I don't know, like their mom told them no to play Xbox when they were younger. You know what I mean? Like they've never been in a physical confrontation. So I would say that's one of the biggest ones is just train, be confident in your skills, let your skills speak for themselves. You don't have to be the loudest one in the room. You don't have to be the biggest one in the room. Just be confident in your ability to handle yourself, and the people you work with will learn that, hey, so-and-so knows what they're doing. Like, they back me up on a call, like we're good, Especially if you're a female, like coming from that female perspective.
Yeah.
I get underestimated a lot. And especially when I first started. I mean, I love my department, the people I work for. I'm pretty lucky for the area that I'm in. But it took me a while. Like, I had to go through a period of time where I had to prove myself, and I just let how I handled calls speak for themselves. I backed them up on fights. I wasn't scared to get in there, get hands-on, and basically do my job. I just showed them, hey, I'm not 6'4", 240 pounds, but if we get in a fight, like, it's on. Like, let's go. I'm down for this.
Right.
And you just gotta know, as a girl, you're gonna have to work twice as hard, but I mean, it's worth it. Just let them see your skills, let them speak for themselves, and don't be afraid to get hit and hit back, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. And hey, we got a bunch of tools on our belt, so it's not like you have to overpower a 6'4", 250 pound man. You can
Exactly.
figure it out a different way. But yeah, that's good advice. Don't be afraid to get in there, because unfortunately, I worked with guys that were my size. I'm 5'10", like 200. I worked with guys bigger than me that were like timid. So like when like when everybody's made the decision, like time to go. We're done talking. Like, you're not listening. Whatever the thing is, you kind of, everybody gets the look. Let's do it. I worked with guys that are big, strong, capable guys that were kind of like pussyfoot it. But then if you get a female half their size who's like got your back and is just ready to go, it's great. You know what I mean? Like, that's good. So that's
you got to be confident.
Yeah, just go, especially if you're with other officers, just you'll take care of each other. You'll figure it out. That's really good advice. I'm glad you said that about the female thing, because it's there's not a ton of female cops, and I've always said, like, it just takes a special person to be a police officer, but like a certain kind of person, but even more so for women, because it doesn't necessarily play to a lot of women's strengths, which is fine.
Right.
Which is fine, but for some women it does. Like, some women are programmed for it, and they're good at it, and for them to get the right advice and backing is really important. Especially, like, I just did the episode that just came out with Bridget Truxillo. I don't know if you heard it or not, but she worked in California, Florida. They both have palm trees. And she was like the first like female SWAT operator in her area, and she got it bad.
Yeah.
Bad. Like, the guys were dicks, like serious chauvinists, and to me, it's surprising, like, because I've never worked in an environment where, like, women weren't, like, respected. Like, I just have never had a job like that where, and actually, like, I think most jobs I've worked for women before. Like, I've never seen that. So, like, to hear it is like, whoa, that's, like, really, I mean, if someone passes SWAT, like, the test, and gets on the team.
That's badass, yeah.
Then, like, what other choice do you have then to give them a shot? You know what I mean? Like, it's like anybody else. That's a hard test. It's hard to do. So she's, like, proven she's physically capable and all that. But she said still there was guys that were just, like, you know, not having it, which is unfortunate. But, yeah, I'm really happy that you were able to come on and hopefully be, you know, I know you will be an inspiration to people who are looking to get into it, because you're still pretty young yourself, and you are a lady, and you had a baby, and you did it all, and still at it, you know? I hope you have more babies, because that's, you know, good people should have babies, I think. Hell with those guys. They like it. They might not act like it, but they like covering for you. So just go ahead and let it rip, you know?
I think they're a lot happier too when I'm eating everything and not dieting for a show. I'm a little bit more pleasant to be around.
Yeah. So can we talk about that a little bit? Like, you are ripping up right now. Is that right? You're getting shredded?
Oh, yeah.
I'm just throwing all the words.
Yeah.
I know. You're shredding? So stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm about 12 and a half weeks out from my first bodybuilding show. Like I said, I did Thai fighting before this, and with my daughter, I don't have, like, the time to spend training 3-4 hours a day to fight. So this was kind of the next thing on my bucket list, and having abs is a pretty cool side effect.
I've never had abs, but it sounds amazing. My wife.
They're coming.
I mean, I have abs. I can sit up by myself, but they're well protected. My wife she's the one with, like, the good stomach. She's like, you know, when she competed collegiately for dressage, horseback riding. And she also taught it. And she's, you know, nice. She's strong. Like, she's like, and my daughter's the same way. She's like, my daughter, like, loves horseback riding. She has, like, little shoulder caps. She's in there, you know, like, mucking out the stalls.
Oh, stop.
Yeah. So she's like, you know, she's like, got a girl. I mean, it's all credit to my wife, because I would just feed them ho-hos and ding-dongs. But my wife is like whole foods, fruit, vegetables, and all my kids, like, look ripped with their shirts off. I'm like, well, geez, these guys look great. And she's like, well, you should eat what they eat. I'm like, well, calm down. Take it easy. You need to enjoy life.
It's like you're crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa. Well, Sadie, this has been a lot of fun. I thank you so much for coming on the show. It was a blast. I hope you stay safe out there in Iowa, and I hope that you come back on the show in a couple of years and share some more stories.
Yeah, absolutely. We get some weird stuff out here, so I would love to.
I like it. Well, hey, we'll come back. We'll get weird again. It's perfect.
Awesome.
All right. Hey, I'm gonna do the outro. Will you just hang on the line?
Yep.
All right, great. Hey guys, that was episode number 80. Thank you for joining us. Sadie Hansen, great stories, super fun interview. Iowa is lucky to have her. So, yeah, thank you for the sponsors. Thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for the reviews. And if you could, I mean, if you don't do anything else, like you like the show, you listen all the time, and you're like, what can I do for Steve? But I don't have any money. I wish I could do something. You could just give me a 5-star review on iTunes. That would be awesome. I noticed that sometimes people do 4 stars. It's 5. Let's go with 5. Because if you're at 4, you kind of like the show. Why not go 5? You know, maybe it's dishonest for you, but it's okay. Do the 5. I got a 4 recently, and but then also they criticized me and said that they were liberal and that I'm too hard on liberals. But it's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I talk about once in a while I talk about the crazy left, and when I say left, I mean communists. But liberals are great. Love you guys. So hey, if you're listening, because you said you were a big fan, I think you can go back and you can go ahead and you can make that a 5. So if you go back, change that 4 into a 5, I'd love you for that. That'd be great. But yeah, love the liberals, love the conservatives, love everybody. I love everybody. It's not the far lefties. Those guys are weird. I don't like them. So thank you for listening. Thank you for checking out the YouTube channel. People are liking that. This episode will also be up there. If you want to be a guest for the show, go to thingspolicec.com, scroll down and click Be a Guest, and you can just type, give me your info. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to like write it out. You just say like, I've been a cop for this long. I think I'd be a great guest. I'd love to come on. And, crazy domestic accident with turkey, making love to swan, whatever weird thing happened where you are, just put it in there and it will come right to me. And then I will schedule you to come on the podcast. I have I've done very little to filter people coming on this podcast, and it's really worked out. I think we have a niche here. We have a really good audience we've built up, and a lot of it is coppers that listen. So if you've been driving around in your cruiser and you're thinking like, I want to pull the trigger on this, I think I could give Steve some stories. I think we could chat and have a good time. It's probably true. We probably would have a good time, and you probably have some great stories. So it doesn't matter if you're, NYPD, LAPD, Boston PD, or if you're, in North Dakota and there's like 2 of you and you go off and on your shifts. One does days, one does nights, and then there's like a bunch of days uncovered. That's perfect too. I'd love to hear from you. So, thingspolicec.com. Also there you can do a donation if you are so obliged. Only if you really love the show. I really appreciate any support that I can get. But yeah, that's it, guys. And I'll catch you next time.